Buckle up. It's the Insurance Dudes podcast.
Boom! Yeah, we got a boom.
We got a boom. Love it.
Did I clip?
Carson, Saville. How you doing?
Good. How y'all doing today?
Good. Welcome
Fantastic.
to the Insurance Dudes.
Excited
Yeah.
to be here, man. Y'all built
Good.
up a great podcast here.
Oh, thanks. Well, we are excited to have you. And my AirPods just went off. But Craig, we got to get into the first question.
Let's do it. Or are we going to do you want to do speedster? What is it called? Speed breakers. Should we do speed breakers?
Speed something. It's
Speed breakers. You ready, Carson? Can you do speed
hey,
breakers?
Hit me with it. I have no clue what we're talking
It's
about.
new.
Y'all bring
It's
on.
new. There's only 3, but nothing's been published with speed breakers yet.
All
Here
right.
we go. So you got to answer as quick as possible. Don't think about it. Whatever comes
Lickety
out
split.
first. You ready? Have you ever had a mullet?
Yes.
First
Yes.
crush.
Brooke.
Most embarrassing thing your mom ever caught you doing.
That's a long list, man.
Fastest speed you've ever driven.
106 getting clocked.
Oh, there you go. Ooh, favorite cereal.
Oh,
How many kids
2.
have you made cry?
Too many.
That's what everybody says. Count Chocula or Count Dracula?
Chocula.
Fastest mile?
6:30.
Favorite flavor?
Of. Let's
Any
go
favorite
chocolate.
Flavor. All right. Nobody said anything bad. Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
That's right. Tacos or burritos?
Tacos.
And Trump or Biden? Not allowed. You don't have to
Hey, look
answer
at
that
y'all,
one. Don't have to answer that one, but all right.
But it's good.
Whichever one is answered, it alienates half the audience. So
Oh, yeah.
there you
Right.
go.
Which
It's the
doesn't
best.
matter. Yeah.
It's all good.
Trust me, we say enough stuff and act enough the way we do to alienate enough people.
Oh, yeah.
I think they just turn it off after the first couple minutes
Yeah.
anyway. So. Well, welcome, man. It's awesome to have
Cool.
you on here. I am really, really excited about this because, and now I can't remember who told us to get a hold of you. Austin, that's right.
Austin Moorhead. Dude.
Yeah.
Guy's a
And
machine.
He is a machine. But from what I hear, you're a machine. So why don't I'm so fascinated in what you do and your specialty, and we talk about going narrow and just really being focused. This is something that you don't hear a lot of.
No.
So why don't first, before we get into that, why don't you tell a little bit about your background, Carson, just kind of how you got into insurance, and then let's go into what you do. It's freaking awesome.
All right. Well, yeah. So I went to Auburn in college, came out of there, underwrote AIG for a couple of years, got my feet wet in the insurance industry. My dad has been in the public sector for insurance since the 80s.
Okay.
He built up an agency, sold it. We kind of agreed to start something, but we had no money and really didn't have any employees or even an office. So I went and worked AIG just to pay the bills and help him on the side. And we kind of just drummed up business out of nowhere. Started from nothing. You know, he had already built one agency, so he had the carrier contacts and some relationships, but we just started cold calling. And it was me and him sharing a desk in his basement. I mean, it was the grind, man. And so we slowly built up. We had a carrier finally one day want to come see us in person. And we're going to have to get an office. So we went that day and leased an office, and then we got our first employee, and we've kind of gone, we started several programs and
put together the set so that we walked in.
But in a nutshell, what we do is we work with local agents to help them write their city, county, utility, or school district that's in their local town where they have the politics and relationships. A lot of agents write this stuff, and a lot of agents don't know this even exists. You know, every day I talk to agents that say, I didn't even know these cities bought insurance. Think they're self-insured, and a lot of them are, but they don't have to be. It's not a requirement. And there's just so much opportunity. You think of just what's going on in the world these days with the pandemic and law enforcement. I mean, every city is looking to save money right now. So,
that's interesting that you bring up. I didn't even know they have insurance, because I know like some counties, they just self-insure, right?
If they're big enough.
If they're that's Pima County here does. I know my county.
You got to think about self-insurance. A lot of people don't know how that works.
Yeah.
If a county is big enough, they're paying $1 million, let's say.
Okay.
And they've only got 100,000 in claims every year. Well, you think over a 10-year time period, they could have saved $9 million.
Yeah.
And so they just buy the excess. Anything above 500,000 is their self-insurance kicks in, but they cover the claims underneath that, and they save the premium dollars. So,
okay.
Your big ones can do that, but your small towns, your cities, even counties that are 30,000, 50,000 people are definitely insured first dollar. They're not going to self-insure. It doesn't make sense unless they're just really good with risk management.
I get it. So self-insurance is just huge deductible.
Yep. Exactly.
Okay.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
It's definitely something that it's definitely a coverage that you don't hear about often, or a policy, I guess.
Yep.
Well,
in most agents, you're not going to have the politics in every city or county that around you. Where you grew up is where the most people or where you live currently. So a lot of these agents write their city, and that's it. So why would they need to learn a ton about municipal insurance? They come to us. We do 300 of them total. We do all the work. We got the exclusive carriers. We quote it. I even go to council meetings and present for them sometimes.
Wow.
To just make sure they keep it.
That's why
they make the same amount whether they use us or not.
Yeah. Universities too?
Yeah. We write Clemson University.
What about Auburn?
Not yet. Auburn's self-insured.
Okay.
I'm sure that's a big one. But now Clemson's big too. It's a pretty complex policy.
Yeah. That's wow. It's amazing. So I would guess the whole sales process, the whole pipeline, all of that is totally different. Like, what do you do to, I guess you get on a show like this and talk to an audience of agents is one way, but how, how big is your agency? How many employees do you have? What's going on over there?
12 employees right now. Most of my agents almost look like as employees. Out of 300 cities, we've got about 200, maybe 250 agents that we work with and partner with on each one. So the sales pipeline, I've got a team that calls every city, county, and utility throughout the country during the year. And they'll call asking for who that local agent is for each city. And one thing I want to touch on, though, with this is you've got local agents that can write these, but there's also state pools that write a good bit of these. And this is not self-insurance. It's actually not even insurance. It's a shared risk group, just like MediShare. And so they're not regulated by an insurance commissioner, but a lot of cities will enter into these pools, associations, or leagues, and they'll share the risk. But a lot of things with the world right now are going on that these cities don't want to be liable for other members that they've got no control over right now. And they can get assessed at any time. So, that's a big deal for them.
That's
and
crazy.
You said MediShare?
So, you've heard of like MediShare, right?
MediShare. For those who haven't, why don't you explain? Why don't you talk about that? Of course I have.
That's on the benefits, which that's not my language. But
okay.
It's basically.
By the way, I love Craig's technique right there.
What's that?
I know it. I have a book about it.
I know about it, but for those that don't, can you explain it?
Well, we want to make sure everybody's understanding and following.
We'll do it as the cities, do it. So they join into a group, and like I said, it's not insurance, but they pay a premium, and the claims get paid out. And the self-insurance pools in each state are pretty powerful, but it's not first dollar insurance through an insurance agent. The pool gets a certain amount of premium from each city, depending on their size and all that. And then they pay the claims out on if they think they need to pay the claim, they'll pay it. If they don't, then, and they've got an insurance policy and all, but they can be assessed at any time. They're jointly and severally liable, the city is, for the years they participated in that pool. So it's pretty confusing, but basically a pool goes direct to a city and kicks out the local agent. We don't use pools. We use agents, and we make sure the agent writes their local city.
Okay. And then you guys partner on it. You have the expertise in the backup and
Carriers,
all the stuff, and the attorneys or whatever. And
yep,
they're the best. Gotta love those attorneys.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So it sounds complicated, but I can't tell you how many agents we've taken from knowing nothing about this to except just saying, hey, I know the mayor, or I know a couple board members at the county. And before you know it, they're presenting an insurance quote we built for them, and we're coaching them along the process, and they write the county, the city, and their school their kids go to.
So what does a policy like that look like?
And I've got some that
it's
are
gotta be huge.
$1,000 in premium. I've got some that are $2 million.
2 million. Okay.
So
Wow.
Typically we'll pay agents on, say, a property and casualty policy. We'll pay them 10%, sometimes more, sometimes less. You can put fees on and all that good stuff. But an average account, 120,000 maybe.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of premium.
Yeah.
It's
And you're not the carrier, right?
No, so I'm a wholesale broker.
Okay.
Some people call it MGA, but basically we don't do anything that has incorporated behind it. We only do public entities. So city, county, school, utility, DDAs, regional commissions. I mean, there's so many of these things that people don't realize exist.
Mm-hmm.
And they all have to buy insurance. So we go to those agents and, call on them and point them in the right direction. Or we go to the agent that already writes their city, say, hey, we can protect you from losing this to outside competition.
Do tell.
Well, I mean, we'd have the exclusive with a lot of carriers. So we'd come to him and I'd say, I can get you a quote through these 6 carriers that you might not have access to because they only work through a broker like me. Or just the expertise. I mean, we're seeing stuff on a national level of what's happening these days with the pandemic and communicable disease, and law enforcement coverage. And what does that look like? And is it changing? And an agent that sees one city of 25,000 people isn't going to see that kind of exposure changes until it's too late.
For those who don't know what a pandemic is, could you So, and you do at the national level too. What's the most interesting case that you've been involved with?
Claim?
Or whatever. Let's
get crazy claims.
Let's do it. That sounds fun.
My top 2. I just pre-warn you. Everybody's fine. No one died.
That's a good.
Really, you gotta tell people that. I'll tell you.
You're 3. Like, oh no, don't tell this.
I'll tell you 3. I went in on one county, and we kind of came in as a consultant, but we helped the new agent write it. And the previous agent had not really done very well on it. And we found out that they were paying for 35 police cars that they haven't owned since 1990.
Oops.
So yeah, that was a return premium of about $25,000. And you talk about things getting heated on them fighting over that money. But claim wise, we've seen some pretty crazy stuff. My claims manager could tell you all kinds of stories, but the top 2, I'd say I had a fire station that we insure at one of the cities, and big $500,000 fire truck. Those get rolled all the time. New driver.
Really?
Oh yeah. But,
they're so heavy, huh? I mean,
so this is like 2 a.m. and these 2 guys are doing shrooms down the street.
The firemen?
No, hopefully not. These 2 random kids are doing shrooms down the street from the fire station. Okay. And one of them passes out or something happens, and the other one starts freaking out. And he goes and lays his buddy against the fire station door. The garage door that rolls up. He runs over to the bushes. Keep in mind, he's hallucinating big time right now. He calls the fire department and says, my buddy's in trouble. I need you to come help right now, and hangs up. Well,
oh, no.
Suits up, hits the door, and hammers out and runs over the guy's legs. So our city's liable.
Holy moly. And
he
put him there.
But, they sued the city for that.
Oh my God.
I mean, it seems like there should be some personal responsibility on that one.
I mean, these are rare occurrences. Most of my cities are pretty dang good at what they do. I mean, they run a pretty tight ship, but you see this occasionally, the other one.
Or the city's passing out the shrooms and then That's what happens.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you can't do that, Colorado.
That's a great story, by the way. That's an attention grabber.
Man, there's a bunch. I mean, we've seen some crazy. I've paid some teachers a lot of money for straining their back on a field trip.
Straining their back? Just straining.
They don't get paid enough anyways. They put a work comp claim in for, picking up a pencil and their back hurts. You see it, and they pay it because it's cheaper to just pay it than fight it. But the other craziest one, and again, everybody's fine, but I had a drug task force go on a drug raid one night, and we've got all these guys covered. We know what they're doing. The carrier knows what they're doing. This is what we do every day. They go in on a drug bust, and they've got a brand new officer, and she's never done this. And everybody's nervous, and they go in the house, and they don't see anybody. They kick the door in, and they hear something upstairs. She runs up there and throws a flashbang. Lands inside a baby's crib. Oh. And everybody's fine. Turns out the house with the drugs is the one next door, and they had the wrong address.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
You got to do some due diligence on this.
Completely fine, but that's the kind of stuff you see that's just crazy, Right. The baby had no damage at all. I mean, it's fine. They paid out policy limits on it, but stuff like that happens,
Yeah, because it's all emergency situations. There's no way that everybody's.
I mean, but isn't there some planning that goes into a drug raid? Like, the address. Like, you could tell me anybody in Tucson, like, here's the address. I could probably end up at the right house.
Oh yeah.
Good job.
I mean,
this was a while back, so I don't know if somebody just had a typo or what, but it was a pretty big
typo.
Oh, thank God the baby's okay. That's a nutty one.
Fine.
Oh,
that is nutty.
Crazy. So most agencies, it's all the same stuff, right? We hire, we train, we got to motivate our staff, bring them leads. What an interesting model that you have. Can you touch on some of those things? Like how is training for this? I mean, there's a big learning curve. There's a learning curve for something as simple as auto insurance. But I mean, with this is.
Well, that's kind of why they use us, because if I have an agent like that, I say, let's talk about which relationships you have in the cities to start. So is your brother-in-law on the council, or, have you grown up with everybody there? Where's that relationship? The politics is huge here. And then from there, if they can go get us the submission info, or if they already write it, they probably have the loss runs and apps and everything. They send us everything, and my team does all the applications, spreadsheets, you name it. We break the budget down, we spreadsheet the losses, and we go get quotes, and we come back and we build something that a fourth grader could read for the council. And
what you need.
Yeah. I mean, you don't want to hand them an 80-page quote.
Yeah. And
we compare it to their current coverage. And then I tell the agent what he needs to say at the meeting, and he writes the business. Nice. And all he has to do is get the information and then go to one council meeting. And I mail him a check.
Seems easy enough. Yeah. What does that application look like?
Well, that's an interesting story too. I mean, you think years ago, we've got every carrier in the public sector. So Travelers wants their apps, and One Beacon wants their apps, and all these different carriers want their underwriting, rating information. And that's just a ton of work if you're looking at 500 cities a year.
Yeah, I bet.
So what we did is we built a comprehensive app that's more detailed than all of those carriers' apps combined. And, I haven't talked on Bob, who's my partner and my dad in this, but he started this back in the PINCO days in the 80s, when cities didn't have to buy insurance. And so he's kind of built this up and known what needs to be done and what doesn't need to be done. And we can identify those key exposures that, hey, we need to know about this, or no, we can let this slide. We already know the answer on the application.
Wow. So your dad was doing this prior to this being mandatory.
Yeah.
What year did this become mandatory?
I believe it was 87.
87. Crazy.
When I was born, basically. I mean, it was a long time ago. And a lot of them, they had sovereign immunity and all these other terms that a lot of people aren't familiar with, but eventually they got rid of some of those laws and tort laws and all that stuff, and they started requiring these cities to buy insurance. And that's where the pools and the associations got formed. But at the same time, you're seeing a lot more agents these days write these things because the cities are not wanting to, you see what's going on in the world. They don't want to be included in other cities they have no control over. And it makes perfect sense.
What does your insurance fall under? What jurisdiction for, this is the most exciting question ever, for regulation? Like who regulates? Is it by the state? Is it still state for that?
Yeah, is there some insurance commissioner? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's CCI.
In each state. So it's the states that are requiring the different places to have. Okay.
Yeah, and they each have different rules and laws. Like, California, there's no laws on how many pools you can have. So there's
that California.
I mean, it's crazy. But you go to Georgia, they say you can have one pool for cities, one for schools, and one for counties. Well, we can learn those pretty well.
Why can't they keep it simple like that, Mr. Jason?
I don't know.
California is just wacky.
It's a bit wacky.
You got to get
out. That's why everybody moves to Arizona from here.
Oh man, tell them to stay in California. Or they can move to Colorado. I'm sick of it.
Well, with the heat, man.
You should see all these cars with the plate in the front now, because that's the California has the plate on the front of their car. We don't have that here. They're all over the place.
Front platers.
Can't deal with
watch out for them.
Those front platers.
Speaking of cars, I'll tell you another unique thing we've seen lately is driverless cars.
Oh.
And buses.
Yes.
Buses?
Really?
I got a bus in one of our cities that doesn't have a driver at all. And it's running right now as we speak.
No, is that Looney Tunes? Like, do people get on there and go, what the hell's going on here? It's like RoboCop right now.
Well, they had a driver and the bus learned it for like 2 years.
Huh.
Wow. What company built that?
I'd have to look, man.
Not Tesla.
I'm sure Tesla's right behind them, but you're going to see more and more of that. You'll see garbage trucks, school buses. I mean, we're getting ready for that now.
So, okay. So this is one of those things where people are concerned, agents, right? Local agents are like, well, once the cars are all, what happens to the insurance? So what are you seeing now for that? And how is it affecting that?
Yeah.
The market.
I think the scare is, if I'm a local agent, is my current carrier I've got my city with going to cover a car like that, or will I have no coverage? And it's the same situation with property right now. There's been so many different hurricanes and floods and everything around that property is going up across the country. And so these agents are saying, I need a solution. I only have these couple carriers, and they'll come to us and we're able to place it somewhere. And maybe even if we separate out the policies, but we can keep the coverage for them, whereas otherwise they might not have an option. So, I mean, every day I talk to agents about this same issue, and they say, I wish we knew you existed earlier. So that's what me and Austin been working on.
So it's not going to be the 0% chance, and we're not going to have to, the driverless car is going to be perfect and nothing's going to happen, or they're still going to be running people over and running people over. And
you got a long time. But you think about stuff like that bus, it goes the same route every day for the same amount of time, stops every place at the same amount of time. It's similar to like a school bus, and it knows when the kids are there and stuff. But carriers are trying to figure out, how do we adequately cover that? Because who's at fault? The computer is.
Right.
There's
no
driver.
Designer of the computer.
I mean, the city would ultimately be the owner, so they'd be at fault.
And regardless of fault, like, how do you assess? It's all based on numbers and statistics. Like, how do you, and this is an unknown variable. Like, everything's new, so it's like, we don't know the probability of this going awry.
Well, I mean, you would think that.
To be continued.
Hey, Jason.
Yes, Mr. Craig.
That was another awesome episode, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if people want to get a little bit more action and learn how to do write 100,000 in premium off of even the worst internet leads, where could they go?
They can go to live.teledudes.com.
Ooh, that sounds exciting. Are we going to be there?
Yes, it's a weekly call that we're doing right now it's live, and it will show you the process. The entire process is super awesome.
I love it. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Sign up right now, live.teledudes.com.
Live.teledudes.com. That's live.teledudes.com.
Hey, Craig, there's a new community that we are starting that I cannot wait to tell everybody about. It is our live texting community where you and I are going to answer people's questions and give them free content, right?
Are you kidding me? We get to talk to them?
Yeah, which is awesome, but they have to opt in. They have to text us at 520-214-2219. That's 520-214-2219.
Nice.
Craig, are you going to respond to these texts?
I'm going to respond to them for sure. Live.
I'm into it too. It's going to be awesome. And it's going to be our new texting community where we're going to get back to everybody that we can and drop some crazy content, free content, and free the calculator that you just came up with. That's right. The calling calculator, sales material. I mean, everything for insurance agents. This is it. It's the best texting community out there for insurance agents.
Well, what the heck is that number again? I can't remember it.
It's 520-214-2219. That's 520-214-2219.
I love it. I'm going to text it right now.
520-214-2219.
All right. I'll see you later, Mr. Jason.
Bye, Mr. Craig.
Wait, do they even listen to this on the radio anymore?
I love it. I love it.
Nice.
All right.